What's up guys, I'm BTC, got a bunch of stuff for you today, including what looks like an update for the Rialto map, competitive capture the flag, and more. First thing I want to get to is an update on the legendary skins from the Overwatch League All-Star event. The event itself is on the 25th and the 26th. The skins are available from August 17th to the 27th. Originally, they were going to cost 300 League tokens each. That works out to about $15 a piece. And a lot of people were kind of upset about this. I made a video talking a lot about it, and I don't know whether or not Blizzard saw my video. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. But the fact is a lot of people were complaining about it. And what they ended up doing was they dropped the price from 300 League tokens to 200, which now works out to about 10 bucks a piece. So that's a little bit better, but going back to what I said in my previous video, I still think 10 bucks for these skins is pushing it. I think a better amount would be maybe like $7 or $8. At least Blizzard is listening. The important thing is that they responded to the complaints and concerns of the customers, and they dropped the price. But it was very subtle. They just kind of very simply put out a quiet little notice that said, hey, we reduced the price from 300 down to 200, and then that was it. They didn't actually explicitly state why they dropped the price on it. They just did it, and then they kind of like backed away from it. Next up are map updates, reworks, and possible new game modes for competitive. Over on the official Overwatch forums, Jeff Kaplan was responding to a series of questions. The first one about Rialto, because Rialto has some problems. I like the map. I think it's very fun. I think it's interesting. I like the way it looks and just how everything goes on. But with all that being said, there's no denying the map has a couple of problems. The biggest one is probably the fact that almost no one ever finishes it. I can't tell you how many times I have played that map in competitive and neither team makes it to the end. I mean, if you happen to make it to all the way and you actually get inside that final building, I mean, that by itself is a triumph. But most people tend to get hung up somewhere around the middle of the map and then it just ends. So he responded and he said, in the past week, attackers win 42.88%. We always try to balance toward a 50-50 win rate. We have some minor tweaks we can make to bring the map more in line. We were looking at it late last week and early this week. While it's not perfect, it's also not hugely out of line. There is no doubt that Rialto is a heavily defender-favored map. But I don't think it needs any sort of massive rework like what we just got with Horizon Lunar Colony. Maybe there needs to be like an extra flanking route or something, and open a door here or there, but no massive rework needs to be done on this. One of the biggest problematic areas that people always want to talk about is this right here, but I really don't think that this is a big problem area. I think the only time teams get stuck on this is when they're just incredibly uncoordinated, when people are just doing their own thing. I mean, yes, this part can be a little bit of a problem, but the thing is if you just kind of hide behind the payload, you can easily push it past the bridge, and there's not a whole lot of danger there. Like, you're not going to get knocked off to the side that much. And even if there is a lot of resistance, you still have this flanking route over here, and then you have another flanking route over here, where you could just have your entire team come out over to this side, they go down this corridor right here, and then they can attack the enemy from behind. Now, probably before you get here, they're going to realize what's going on, and they're going to try to move to counter it, in which case you are in kind of a narrow little path right there. Maybe what they need to do is maybe they need to put like another door right here or something like that, so you can come over here and then just swing into the building and then go up top, or whatever it happens to be, but I don't think that this area is the problem. I think the problem with Rialto is this section right here, this giant open area. And let me tell you why. So most of the time when I play this map, I see both teams kind of get stuck right about here. And I think the biggest problem is that the attackers have to go from their spawn all the way over at this building, and they have to cross this bridge and then try to get to the payload over there. Now, in most payload maps, there would be buildings and other things in the way that would give them a little bit of cover in order to make it over to where the payload is to try to push it. But in Rialto, you just have this gigantic open section where you can have a Widowmaker, Hanzo, McCree, even throw a Junkrat or something in there, and it just makes it incredibly difficult for the attackers to even get back to the payload. By the time they get there, they've probably already lost at least 1 or 2 supports, maybe a DPS or something like that, so it just makes it that much more difficult. So I think there's a couple of solutions for this. Rather than forcing the entire attacking team to constantly go through this giant open area, maybe you could have something over here. There could be some kind of little bridge that pops up, and maybe you can get into this building over there. Or maybe you could have something way over on this side, where they can cross over on this. And then maybe you could have them go, I can't go there because there's an invisible wall, but maybe you could have them go up and around and somehow get to this point right here. And then they have another way of getting into the building. So that way they have at least some kind of cover. Because constantly going across this giant open area, I think this is the main problem with the map. Not the starting area, because that I don't seem to really see a lot of teams get hung up on. A lot of teams might have some problems over here, but I don't really see that too often. I think the biggest issue is this spot right here. And I think if they address that and they give the attackers a little bit better way to get back here, then it will solve a lot of those problems. Another thing Jeff Kaplan talked about was the possibility of adding Capture the Flag to the standard competitive mode. He said, "We talk frequently about adding new modes to the game and competitive play. As much as we love Capture the Flag, we really don't think it's suited for the game outside of the arcade." I would kind of agree with this. The current version of Capture the Flag, the current rule set, is a lot better than the original rule set they had, but I still think it's not quite where it needs to be. I think it's possible that Capture the Flag could in fact be a standard competitive game mode, but it would take a little bit more work in order to get it there. I've also given quite a bit of thought to different variations of existing map types, the main one being the payload style maps. Because one of the things that I really liked in Team Fortress 2 was the competing payload maps, where both teams have a payload and they have to get it to the point first. I think that would be really cool. The only problem I see with Overwatch is I think it might end up turning out to be whichever team can get Bastion on the payload first will end up winning. And I don't think that would be fun or interesting in any way, shape, form, or fashion. So I think there are some variations that they could do, but it would be a little bit more difficult. Now, in the meantime, I think there's a new mechanic that they could add to new maps, which would be really good, and that would be the dynamic maps. The recent map they added, Petra for Free-for-All, has a really cool function in the center of it. There's a mega health pack, and surrounding it is this breakable terrain. And as the map goes on, it gets destroyed, and that area gets more and more dangerous if you want to try to go and get the mega, because you can get knocked off or thrown off or whatever it happens to be. And I think that sort of thing would be really, really cool to add in a standard competitive map. Now, it would have to be done in such a way where you can't just have the defenders at the very beginning of the match, you know, right before it starts. If all they do is run over and just quickly destroy the destructible stuff, then that's not going to be fun, right? That's going to be really boring and, you know, kind of whatever. Like, it's going to defeat the purpose of having it dynamic and making it change during the course of the map. I think there would have to be other things that could be changed and interact and all that sort of stuff, but the potential is there, and I think that would be really cool. And I do have a couple ideas for stuff, and maybe I'll have to save that for another video, but I think dynamic maps would be really cool. I would expect to see some changes to Rialto popping up on the PTR probably in about a month and a half, 2 months, somewhere around there. But what do you guys think they should do to change the map? What sections, what extra flanking routes, all that stuff? Let me know down below. Thanks for watching, and if you'd like to see more, subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss anything. Also, come hang out in my Discord server and my Twitch live stream. Special thanks to my Patreon supporters. If you'd like to see what kind of cool VIP rewards you can get, check the links down below. And remember, always blame the controller, because it's never your fault.